I will take you to the next point, which is number 4, prosperity, which is closely connected to the point we just made now. The more money you have, the more temptation, the more likely that you're going to compromise. And never forget this. In prosperity, always remember that the God who prospered you does not deserve to be wounded by you. I'm going to say that again. Always remember that in the time of prosperity, the God who prospered you should not be offended because he blessed you. You can't use the money that God has given you, the privilege, the position. You cannot use the privilege that God has given you now to become an MD, a CEO, a bank manager, a senator, a governor, a director, a permanent secretary. You cannot use that position, that privilege, that power to begin to do things to hurt the heart of God. It is a reason God removes some, brings them down, and lifts up the poor. God is a God who lifts up the poor and brings down the rich. He is a God who brings down the mighty and lifts up the lowly. So, if you're in position of power and prosperity, please walk with humility. Pornography drives infidelity. Pornography. The number 6 is what we call purposelessness. Purposelessness. When a man or woman suddenly loses sight of why you are alive, you are going to start pursuing the lesser and baser things of life. When you lose the ultimate reason, the sight of the ultimate reason why you are alive, when you forget that you are kept on planet Earth not to make money but to make lives, for making money is a means by which you make lives. When you forget that the reason you have to use a Lamborghini is so that you can reach people that may not be rich without you having a Lamborghini. When you forget that the reason why God made you a CEO is so that you can be able to reach other CEOs that an average person may not be able to reach because of their position. When you forget the purpose of prosperity, when you forget the purpose of position, when you forget the purpose of privileges, you will begin to abuse position, privilege. You begin to abuse even your personality. So it's critical to understand that purposelessness, when there is no sense of purpose, the Bible says when there is no vision, a sense of purpose, people will live carelessly. If a girl can understand that in the next 5 years, she's going to be one of the most celebrated people on earth, she will mind how she conducts herself today. A girl who is mindful of her purpose will not expose herself to some unnecessary things today. It is a lack of sense of purpose that makes some persons to live compromised lives. Keep your purpose in view. It will be your protection. Purposelessness drives infidelity. Another major driver of affairs is what we call passion. Uncontained and uncontrolled passion. You find that in 2 Samuel chapter 13. Amnon suddenly had this desire for the wrong person, his sister. Amnon said, I desire my sister. I love my sister. That's not love, that's lust. And the Bible says he pretended sick, got his sister to come visit, and then he raped his own sister. And as soon as he finished raping her, he hated her. Because of that, Tamar remained unmarried until the day of her death. How that uncontrolled and uncontained passion eventually led to the loss of Amnon's life, because Absalom killed him 2 years after. Number 1, Tamar's life was disrupted because one man could not control his passion. How many young girls have their lives messed up became pregnant, have children, because a man could not control his passion. Many lives have been messed up. Ladies who are supposed to be high flyers have been reduced to the ground, taking care of children with no resource. Because a man who could not control his passion came their way and they allowed him. And some forced their way on this girl. Some intimidated this girl to submission. Control your passion. Your passion needs to be controlled. Your sexual passion. It is called sex under fire. Number 8 is what I call perception. One of the major causes of affairs is the perception of admiration that you have about people. For instance, as a man, if a woman comes and begins to greet you, she begins to honor you, something on the inside of you tells you, she needs me. Your perception of her admiration can lead you to sexual compromise. Your perception of her admiration, your perception of the man's admiration in terms of him giving you something can make you begin to think, this guy wants me, after all, let me give it to him. Lastly, patterns. Oh yes, I made it. Patterns. Why do we sometimes have affairs? It's a pattern. Ask your father. It's a pattern. Ask mom. Ask the people in your bloodline. It runs. It runs in the bloodline, so it's a pattern. Huh? Yes. And here's the point. Every one of us is predisposed to repeating patterns, except few things happen. Number 1, there is recognition. Recognize the pattern. Number 2, there's confrontation. Any pattern you excuse, you will never conquer. Number 3, there must be change in orientation, meaning you must receive a new information that negates why that thing is right. You can never conquer anything you justify. Well, it's the women too that always throw themselves at the men in my bloodline. So, Pastor, what do you want us to do when the women always throw themselves? Now, if you buy that kind of philosophy, you will never break away from the pattern. So, number 1, recognition. It's critical. You must recognize. Number 2, confrontation. Number 3, there must be a change in your philosophy. So, orientation. Reorientate yourself. Tell yourself that my father did it and even enjoyed it doesn't mean it is right. I don't want to see you lifted and brought down. That's why I'm telling you this. And I say it with all humility, because I know the truth is scarce. And many generals are falling. Many mighty are falling. How many times will we have to be watching many mighty, anointed, gifted people falling? And you know the funny part of it? When Christians fall, Christians are the first to insult them, destroy them, malign them, bury them. Forgetting that we are all victims of ignorances. So patterns, always remember, please take note, if it's in the root, it has a potential to be in the fruit. Therefore, you must intentionally approach the throne of grace from the place of recognition, confrontation, change in orientation. Number 4, change in disposition. Never feel good about what God doesn't feel good about. The pattern you don't conquer will multiply in the lives of your children. Hey, we are responsible adults. The time has come for us to say no to affairs.